Hey guys, so Acquisitions Lou here as always, and I wanted to make a super quick video for you guys because I just recently had a conversation with a wholesaler who came across his first fire damage property, and unsurprisingly, like we see more times than not, he locked the property up way too high. So, and he's also working with the seller who's working with the agent. And as we always like to say, never to talk bad about any other profession like an agent or a realtor, but simply put, the facts are the facts. They do not specialize in fire damage. That's just the facts. That's not my opinion. So a lot of times they're looking for an offer that simply may not make sense for a buyer to take on that risk. So nonetheless, I just want to give you guys some quick details on this property. So the property is worth about, ARV is about $250,000 as is. Now, I didn't dig into this. The wholesaler said the new construction in the area is going for $365 to $420, which could be true. But as I told you guys, you always want to lock up your deals based off of what this property was. Just assume that the same thing is going back in and may not be new construction, because that's how you lock it up. Now, when we talk about moving the property, you may move it as new construction, but in order to protect yourself and lower your risk as much as possible, just don't focus on the new construction right now. We're just gonna look at this ARV here. So he has here 250, which I think the estimate on this property, which is the safest way to do it, if I'm not mistaken, is 228, close enough, 228, yeah. So 1,400 square feet property, 3 bed, 2.5 bath. And the estimated rehab on this property that they have here, which is also low, is 80 to 100K, and they're asking 110. Now, if you're good at math, and I'm just gonna pull up the calculator, you know that this is basically, and let me say this too, wholesaler is looking for 114. So they're actually looking for exactly 50% of the estimate. And I'm just gonna be very honest with you guys, and this is a great example. When you're locking up properties for almost 50% of the ARV, the property damage needs to be very minimal. When I say very minimal, the fire happened in one bedroom. In that bedroom, the door was shut, so it did not get into the rest of the home. Or it was a garage fire, it was contained to the garage, didn't get anywhere else. Like, when you're locking up properties for 50% of the value, it has to be very minimal, and the stars kind of have to align. It has to be minimal. The insurance company had to deem it as a bad fire, and the owners had to get enough money to feel as though, oh, even though the damage isn't that bad, we get enough from insurance and we're willing to take this little cherry on top cash as is offered and walk away. So a lot of the stars have to align. You do not run across 50% estimate fire damage properties very often. We even only run across a handful of them a year. We're doing a good job to increase those, but a lot of times, guys, you're gonna be purchasing these properties closer to like 20% of this estimate. And I told this wholesaler, this very good kid, and as soon as I said, you need to be like closer to 20%. He said, no, you can't. That's too deep. You could never lock up a property for 20% of this estimate. You'll never do that. We do it every day, and we've been doing it every day, right? So that's just where understanding this specific niche, this specific distress, this specific seller profile, this specific situation with insurance, this specific situation with the lien holder and the mortgage company, this specific situation with the family, and this specific situation with the math behind what goes into locking up these deals, you have to understand that. So that's why, quite frankly, you guys, I hope you're watching our content as much as possible, because people aren't breaking down these type of deals, right? So realistically, he should have locked up this deal, 228, I'm gonna take it by 25%. He should have locked up this deal for about $50,000, right? And now we could talk about moving it to a buyer or someone like that. And I'm gonna show you guys, I'm just gonna show you guys just like this, because it's easier. Okay. So I'm gonna flip the camera here, and I'm just gonna show you guys right on my screen. Doesn't look too bad here. Okay. Well, we got some damage up here. Interesting. Damage up here. Interesting. Whoa. Okay. Now we're seeing some charred brick that looks pretty bad, and we're also seeing up here where there's exposure. Right there. That's not an expensive lamp, guys. That's the sky. That's the sunlight coming in. So there's some roof damage. Now we're talking big numbers, and it's 1,400 square feet, okay? So this is where the rehab starts to get a little bit more serious, and quite frankly, you need to be on the safer side, right? So you gotta take this with a grain of salt and not try to appease the seller as much as possible, because you're not gonna make any money in the end. You guys wanna make money. You're gonna tarnish your name and your brand a bit, and you're gonna waste a homeowner's time that's looking to get out of a tough situation, right? So, keep that rule in mind when you guys are locking up these deals. Unless it's very minimal, you may as well just go off of like 20%, unless you have an eye for checking out these type of damages, and you can kind of break it down, which takes time, which takes experience. Just focus on that simple rule of thumb, closer to about 20%, or else you're gonna get stuck with the property and it's gonna be a mess. So nonetheless, hope you guys are learning a lot from these videos, from these content, and more on the way. As always, Acquisitions Lou out of here. I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.